I'm Derek Joyce and I'm here with Paul O'Murda, and this is I'm Not the Expert, but this is a podcast where we'll discuss everything from the most complex ideas that we know nothing about to the simplest ideas that we probably know nothing about either. So put the kettle on, get comfy and join us. Do you remember I was saying in a previous podcast how I love volcanism? And
what, the study of Volcanoes?
Which is what you said last time and I ignored it completely. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So
volcanic activity.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sulfur and fucking...
Oh, smell of sulfur, jeez.
No, not the smell, but fumaroles and the way they have their own... You know the fumaroles you see at the end of the sea that churn.
No idea what a fumarole is.
You said it to me.
Oh, those
they churn
hot
out the chimney that churns out this fucking shit. And
it's sulfuric acid and
well, there you go with your smell of sulfur again. But all this stuff from deep inside the earth.
Thrives in it.
Yeah. And it's crazy hot. Well, I've loved volcanism and I've wanted to study it when I was a kid.
Did you?
And had I not been an animator, I would have gone into it. I'd love to have gone into that actually.
Were you mad into dinosaurs as well then?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they kind of go hand in hand.
I wanted to be an archaeologist as well because I love Egyptology.
I still love all that.
Yeah.
Very much so.
And this is before like the whole Indiana Jones thing.
Yeah.
Oh, he's an archaeologist.
That wasn't that for me either. It was more going to the National Museum and stuff and seeing stuff. I'd love to get
just wondering where all the stuff came along.
Yeah. But speaking of volcanoes, did you make one of those baking soda ones when you were a kid?
Probably, but I remember more the volcano on the beach.
Oh, right, yeah.
My uncle built a volcano. It was about 4 feet high in memory, which means it was probably smaller, but my memory says it's about 4 feet high. And he had airflow underneath it where they lit a fire with sticks and with coals and shit like that. And it just came out the top. Smoke came out the top. We were all fucking blown away. Is that how a volcano works? And it was like, no, it's not. No. But yeah, so.
Anyway, we can't mention a beach without mentioning the famous Pomeric meteor.
That
was unbelievable. If anyone who's not familiar, go look it up. The Pomeric meteor.
Yeah, not going to say anything about it. Just look at it online.
Very, very funny. Very, very funny.
YouTube or Google Pomeric meteor.
Portmarnock for those who aren't familiar.
Fucking hilarious.
It was really good.
Stupid.
Yeah.
We're extolling the virtuous stupidity of the Irish here. Yeah.
That guy's career is over.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I wouldn't say it's over, but I'd say it's a fairly big speed bump.
Yeah. He's got a long way to get some credibility back, you know?
Yeah, poor fella.
What about these Mexican aliens?
That's bullshit.
Yeah, probably. Looks a lot like Yoda, doesn't it?
No, looks nothing like him.
No, that kind of facial features the old
I didn't think so.
Stick the ears on the side.
I think it looked like a bendy man. You know? Remember bendy man when you were a kid? Yeah. I used to play with them all the time. I thought it looked like a desiccated version of that.
Actually, yeah.
Anyway.
The facial features are very, very Yoda. Anyway, go on.
Volcanoes. A volcano, we all know what a volcano is.
Pretty much.
Okay, volcano is an opening in the planet's crust through which rock, ash, lava, hot, gassy shit just emerges, gets pushed out. And in space, can even be ice and water, and it erupts.
Okay.
So
it doesn't have to be lava and magma and all that stuff.
I'd imagine it just has to be pressure. You know, pressure pushing it up. And it supersedes the pressure, keeping it down, and then that's what creates I don't know, but as I said, I didn't study volcanology, so it's just what I looked up. So I'm not a geologist, I'm not an archaeologist, I'm not a volcanologist, so I can't tell you categorically what it is. But when Voyager 1 was passing Jupiter in 1979, imaging scientist Linda Morabito turned Voyager's camera to take a parting shot of the Jovian system.
I remember that, yeah.
And in taking that shot, she took a photo of Io, one of Jupiter's biggest moons. One of its
frozen one, isn't it?
One of its 80 moons.
Yeah.
Europa is frozen.
Is Europa, sorry, yeah.
And there's a thing about that in the
it's most likely to
papers.
Have life, isn't it?
I'll tell you about it in a second. But she took a photograph of Io and inadvertently snapped the first photo of a volcanic eruption on a body in the solar system other than Earth.
Cool.
So that's fucking class.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And it wasn't lava and magma and shit. It was ice and water. And they think it was from the tidal forces generated by Jupiter's immense gravitational forces on its moon. Because it squashes and stretches them and shit, you know? Yeah. And all that friction is going to create heat.
It's hard to kind of fathom just the level of gravity displacement that Jupiter kind of, you know, it's so big. Like
it pulls on the sun.
Yeah.
What is that zone? There's a zone. The center of the solar system is actually outside the surface of the sun. It's not in the sun. And it's down to the planets in the solar system.
I know, to be the orbits, yeah.
But and I can't remember what it is. Like. I can't remember what it is. It's the influence of the planets on the sun. As much as the sun holds the planets in their orbits, their gravitational pull in their orbits is influencing the sun. Right, so the center is out. The center of the solar system is outside the surface of the sun.
Yeah, it's Barry Center.
Yeah, it's the Barry Center. I knew it was Barry something.
Yeah.
What have you got now?
So a quick Google search of what is the true center of the solar system brings up the following. It's actually just outside the sun's surface. Our entire solar system also has a barycenter. The sun, the earth and all of the planets in the solar system orbit around this barycenter. It is the center of mass of every object in the solar system combined.
Okay. Volcanoes on Earth. Right, so we know there's volcanoes in the solar system, but that's
and probably not beyond, yeah.
We're not dealing with that in this podcast. Volcanoes can be extinct, dormant, or active.
Right. So before you move on, define that, because I thought dormant and extinct would have been pretty much the same thing, no?
Okay. So it's the USGS, I guess.
The United States Geological Survey?
Yeah.
Or Service?
Or something like that, yeah. They define extinct, dormant, or active as if it erupted, if there's record of volcano erupting pre-Ice Age, which was 10,000 years ago.
Right.
It's extinct. It's considered
if it hasn't erupted in the last 10,000 years, basically. Okay, right. Okay.
If it's erupted in
more
the last post 10,000 years, but not since records began, kind of stuff. Yeah. Then it's dormant.
Right.
And if it's recent history, if it's rumbling, and if there's tremors, and if there's seismic activity and all that kind of shit, it's active.
Okay.
But as we go through this, you will see that stuff that had been dormant or quiet for a long, long time, then just
suddenly went
belches into life.
Lovely.
It's mental. And it's crazy interesting. And by the end of this, you'll understand why I wanted to study this when I was a kid.
I hope so.
Yeah. Mount St Helens erupted in 1980.
Yeah, I think I vaguely remember that actually.
Go online.
Because the name immediately, meant something to me the minute you said it. So I would have been very young, but...
Yeah. I'll be referencing the most famous volcanoes and the eruptions, and not necessarily the most violent.
Right.
I have a list of stuff at the end that I'll go through.
And I'll provide photos and videos and stuff on the Facebook page
or
where
links.
that exists of those.
Yeah. I'll say where they exist and what continent or country they're in, all that kind of crap.
Okay, cool.
But the ones we're going to talk about aren't necessarily the most violent and biggest eruptions. They're just the ones that people will probably remember better. So Mount St. Helens, Mount St. Helens in 1980. Mount St. Helens was silent for about 300,000 years.
Oh, wow, so it was technically extinct then?
Up until 4,000 years ago.
Ah, okay.
And then it woke up. As I said when I was telling you what dormant, extinct and active were, extinct is how long is a piece of string? Yeah. You know what I mean? It's extinct. It may not stay extinct.
It's not likely to erupt, but it might.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Would Mount St Helens be the exception to the rule?
No. Very much no.
Okay, so
But the thing is, there's so much good observation and records taken and all that kind of stuff that they can say. They can read the seismic activity. They can take heat readings of the magma chamber below a volcano, and they know if it's getting hotter, if it's getting colder. They can observe sulfur fields. They can observe steam outlets and smoke billowing out of something, and just say. And the thing is, if smoke is billowing out the top of a volcano,
well, that is an eruption.
But it's releasing pressure.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't study volcanology, but I would guess if it's releasing pressure, I would equate that to a pressure cooker. You know, your man's pressure cooker.
Yeah.
Where you release the pressure, because if you don't, it's going to make shit of everything inside it.
Yeah.
Same deal. You know, so if it's releasing pressure, the pressure is not building. So if it's releasing pressure in a manageable, by humans, a manageable amount, then it can be okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get you. It's that they kind of build up a pressure that leads to those kind of catastrophic eruptions where you're seeing lava and magma being thrown up into the stratosphere.
Which there are loads of records. It's nuts.
And that's what I think of.
So
I think of
it was dormant for 300,000 years. It was considered extinct, I guess, for 300,000 years. It was silent, and then it woke up 4,000 years ago, and it was rumbling, probably not on a regular basis, but infrequently.
Yeah.
At 8:32 on May the 18th, 1980, Mount St Helens in southwestern Washington suffered a massive eruption. Rewinding to March the 20th of 1980, so that's 2 months before, volcanic activity began on the north flank of the mountain. It started to tremor. It started to groan, bellyache, give out, whatever adjective you want to put on it, okay?
All those lines on the graphs were going all over the gaff,
Yeah.
Like the ECG thing or whatever that they have for it,
On the 27th of March, a minor eruption occurred. Mount St Helen started belching steam and ash. This continued on a daily basis, and in April, people noticed a change in the structure. People who were familiar with Mount St Helens noticed a change in the structure of the mountain, right? Its north face started to bulge more than a mile wide, a mile square, I guess, of bulge started to swell out the north face.
Okay, that's not scary at all.
More than 6 feet per day. Jesus Christ.
People stand around to watch this.
I'd imagine, there would have been scientists and observations and these guys coming in looking at this, and I'd say it swelled and then it relaxed and then it swelled and then or maybe it just kept building and building.
I think it would have kept building.
I don't know.
You know what I mean? It's solid rock there. I can't see it going in and out. Like it would crack and fall and break and shit. That was happening. I would imagine it just kept swelling and swelling till it popped.
Authorities began evacuating hundreds of citizens.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
But, and this doesn't surprise me either.
Loads wanted to stay behind.
Some refused to leave.
Of course.
I lived here all my life. I'm going to die here. And die you will. On May the 18th, a 5.0 earthquake caused the entire north face of the mountain to slide down the mountain. So if you go online and you...
assuming the earthquake was linked to the volcanic activity. It
wasn't I'll get into that. I'll get into that. Well, it's usually all volcanic activity on Earth is a result of tectonic activity.
Yeah.
Okay? If you Google Mount St Helens eruption and you go videos and you check it out, you can see a video of the whole north face of the mountain just slipping.
I'll throw that up on the Facebook later on then. Awesome.
There will be a link to it.
Yeah, cool.
That was quickly overtaken by a gigantic explosion of steam, rock, gases and lava. Lava only becomes lava when it reaches the surface of the earth. Yeah. Otherwise it's magma.
Right, okay, that's what the difference between lava and magma is.
Yeah, okay. And that I was baffled by that for years.
So when it's in the volcano, it's magma. When it's out, it's lava.
When it's under the surface, magma. When it's above the surface, lava. And I didn't know that for years. Right. And I'd read articles.
I was today years old when I found that out.
I'd read articles and they'd be referring to magma, and switch off to lava. And I'd be like, when the fuck did that happen? But there's why.
Yeah.
Underground magma, above ground lava.
Cool, okay.
The lateral blast leveled everything up to 12 miles away. So it again, when you watch the video, it slips down and then there's this massive blast out from the side of it, right? And that's all the pressure releasing. Yeah. The pyroclastic flow buried everything it passed at depths of up to 150 feet for miles.
There. The pyro what now?
Pyroclastic flow. A pyroclastic flow is a fast-moving current of superhot gas and matter that surges away from erupting volcanoes at speeds of up to 700 kilometers per hour.
So that's your initial explosion. That's your, yeah.
Well, you can have your volcano erupting, and then there's a blast.
Yeah.
And that will create a pyroclastic surge that sweeps down the mountain, and that's what buried Pompeii, which we will get to later.
Right.
But so you've got your superhot gas and matter rock. Magma, which is now lava. You've got your fucking
molten rock. And
molten rock. But what's that shit that's called? Pumice. Pumice is a volcanic rock that contains lots of gas. Pumice actually floats. And stuff. But pumice actually floats on water. That's and again, if you look on the internet, and it might be a simple Google search, but I haven't seen it in years. There's a boat trip that sails through. It's like a yacht sails through all this pumice on top of water, and I think it's from an underground eruption. Yeah. You don't see something bubbling off in the distance, that's young, but it's just there. It's floating. It's like it's like seaweed on top of the water. You know the way you'd see your big seaweed forests. Yeah. It's like that. It's
awesome. It's insane. I'm talking about trips and stuff. We were in Lanzarote 15 years ago, and the whole of Lanzarote is a volcanic island. We went up to the volcano, kind of touristy day tour to see the volcanoes and stuff. And it really got into my head what a volcano is. You know what I mean? I was expecting to see these big pointy mountains with a hole in the top. It's nothing like that at all. It's just it's like the landscape of the moon.
Yeah, right? Well, they are like that.
Literally,
like you've got.
You do have ones like that, but there's lots of other types of volcanoes, and I know you're going to get to them later. It's just that
there are two main types, but they all come in under those categories, and I will talk about that later.
It's interesting that you're saying there, Mount St Helen, the side of it, the north face erupted. That makes a lot of sense when I'm thinking back to what I seen in Lanzarote. There was I wouldn't even call these mountains; they were hillocks, but one side of them would be like a cave, it would be blown away.
That's probably why. Yeah,
and you'd see kind of smoke and stuff coming out.
Is it dormant, extinct, or active?
It's active. Oh yeah,
right, okay.
It's very much
considered active.
Yeah. You still see smoke and stuff, right?
All right.
It's pretty cool.
Deadly. My ma and my brother were on holiday there recently, this year,
and
they went
the
to see
original
them.
Planet of the Apes there. I think I mentioned that before in the first episode we done of this podcast. But yeah, they actually filmed Planet of the Apes there, so that kind of,
Yes.
I'm not sure which one. I think it might have been the Mark Wahlberg one. Actually.
Yeah.
But
they
not
were
desolate.
Just as bad. They were shit.
Yeah, they were terrible.
Yeah.
It's that fucking desolate, barren landscape. That's
the only Planet of the Apes I like is the Simpsons version of Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, I actually have a bit of the ground at home somewhere. Actually, I picked it up. It's almost like a kind of a glass.
Well, it is. It's volcanic.
Yeah.
Volcanic glass.
Little baggie of it home.
I've got an arrowhead. What's that black glass?
Obsidian.
I've got an obsidian arrowhead at home. It's not old. It's not.
Yeah, no, but it's still pretty
I'm sure
cool,
it's picked up and someone just chipped it into an obsidian or an arrowhead shape. One of my friends gave it to me about 20 years ago. I have it stuck on my computer still. Yeah, it's class.
I've got a native Alaskan necklace with an arrowhead on it.
Okay.
I think I mentioned that before on the podcast, so I won't go into the story behind it again.
But Mount St Helens, the pyroclastic flow that surged down the mountain buried everything it passed at a depth of 150 feet for miles. 57 people died, which is relatively low. I'm sorry for those people.
For something that big,
but this gets bigger. 57 people died. 10 million trees were leveled or buried, or both. Thousands of animals and millions of fish were killed by the eruption.
It's mad, though, isn't it?
fucking
And
nuts.
it's not just, the hot lava and all that. It's the poisonous gas.
Yeah, it's everything else. Yeah.
Really fucking toxic shit comes out of those,
A plume 12 miles high was launched into the atmosphere and circled the planet for 2 weeks.
Yeah. And I'm sure you're going to get to the more recent one in Iceland as well. That's what really jumps to my mind.
Yeah.
That bloody grounded air traffic
2010.
for weeks and all.
Yeah.
Was it that long ago? 14 years ago. Jeez.
Was that recent? I read it and I was like, fucking that recent? Jesus
I thought it was much more recent than that. I thought it was just before COVID. Like.
Jesus, no way, man.
We lost 10 years.
Yeah.
Somewhere. But, Jesus, I remember not being able to fly, or someone I knew was trapped abroad somewhere.
There were millions trapped in Europe, trapped abroad.
We due to fly somewhere. I can't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, we were definitely affected by the air traffic being grounded for, Jesus, it seemed like weeks, wasn't it?
It was a week.
It was only a week?
Yeah. Well, the article I read, it was only a week. Yeah.
Just never off the news, though.
When all was said and done, Mount St Helens lost 1,700 foot off its top.
Well.
So it's
smaller than it was.
Yeah. Well, and maybe it's not. Maybe it's after going back.
Yeah,
And when I get to what's that fella that's in Indonesia, Krakatoa. Yeah. When I get to that, you'll.
Yeah, because that's what I'm thinking of with volcanoes. You have the lava coming out and it's adding to it and adding to it and adding to it. It's getting bigger and bigger.
That depends on
the type of volcano.
The viscosity of the lava.
Yeah.
That's coming out, which is all based on something else, which I will get to in a few minutes.
Oh, sorry, I don't want to keep preempting you, sorry.
Yeah, you will. So Mount St Helens became active again in 2004. On March the 8th, 2005, a 36,000 foot plume of steam was blown out from the mountain.
That's probably the one I remember. I remember beside you.
Yeah.
Mount St Helens kind of had a rain. Maybe that's
it. One more minor eruption took place in 2008, but an event like the one that happened in 1980 isn't expected anytime soon. Okay. So that probably doesn't definitively prove my point, but my point about if it's blown off steam, if it's releasing pressure, it's not building to something as cataclysmic or locally cataclysmic as
1980. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to actually getting on YouTube and having a look, see if there's any footage of that 1980.
There is definitely.
Is there?
I was looking at it, amazing, I was looking at loads of footage and I was going, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. It's just, I can't wait to see that. It's obsessive viewing. It's like, fuck me. It just keeps, every video is better and better and better.
I'm just talking about bulges on the side of a mountain.
The video you'll watch obviously isn't as good a resolution as you get nowadays. Don't go in with your expectations very high. No. But you will see footage of it. Yeah.
Come here, I tell you, there was a very famous rock formation in New Hampshire called the Old Man of the Mountain. Right? It was on their red plate, he was on their coins, he was their state emblem, So we were over in 2008. It's basically like I don't know what they call it, almost like a table mountain, that kind of flat plateau kind of mountain. And just at the upper corner, there's a kind of jagged bit of rock that does look like an old man's face, wearing a peaked hat. Definitely does. If you look it up, you'll see it. Anyways, so we went to see it and it was cool and it was awesome. He fell off 2 weeks later.
It fell off 2 weeks later.
I've been there for millions of years.
Yep.
Millennia it was there, and 2 weeks after we went and looked at it, it fell off. Yeah, so that was their coins gone, their red plates gone, their t-shirts in the bin. It was like, when Superman straightened up the Leaning Tower of Pizza.
Awful. Pizza? Leaning Tower of Pizza.
Pizza, whatever.
Okay.
Pizza. Well, yeah, it was literally like that, And we might break all the merch. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so as I was saying earlier, the type of volcano that's formed is dependent on the lava and the viscosity of the lava erupting onto the surface, okay? There are different types of volcanoes, and I looked up and it seemed to be there were two main categories. And it's, as I said, the viscosity of the magma, its composition, the amount of gas in the magma, and magma is going to go cold and solidify into
Yeah.
rock, and that's where you get your pumice
And
from.
it's kind of how quickly it does that, whether it sticks to the side of the mountain or not.
No.
No? Okay.
No. The way in which the magma reaches the surface as well is also a factor in determining what type of volcano is going to be built. If it's blown out of the top, it's going to go in a wider field, whereas if it's erupting,
oozing out the top,
and oozing and seeping out the top, it's going to roll down the side.
Yeah,
okay?
but that's kind of what I was thinking,
The more silica that's in the lava, the stickier it is.
Right.
Okay? So...
Yeah, it kind of stands to reason if you think of, kind of glass blowers with that kind of molten...
Yeah, I didn't think about
glass blowers. Silica is the main ingredient of glass. So that kind of, viscous, sticky, malleable stuff that comes... Yeah.
Okay, so if magma in a volcano is very viscous, the sides of the volcano tend to be very steep.
Yeah.
And this is known as a stratovolcano.
So it's...
Yeah. So
that's the one we're most familiar with, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, well, when you're in school, when you're a kid and your teacher says, draw me a picture of a volcano, that's what you're
I was just going to kind of use a similar example, saying, look, you're an animator, and if your director says, right, draw a volcano, or, there's going to be a volcano in this scene, that's what you're going to draw, isn't it?
Yeah. Shield volcanoes, which are the other type of volcanoes,
so what Lanzarote you would have
low viscosity, runny lava, inverted
spreading
commas.
everywhere.
Yeah. That flows away quickly. Over millions of years, that builds up into a gentle sloping side spread over a wide area.
Yeah,
so
that's basically Lanzarote
it's very innocuous looking.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, I was so disappointed when don't get me wrong, it was awesome to go up and do that tour and see the stuff, but I was literally expecting, triangular shape with the volcanoes and holes in them, and there isn't that.
Okay.
There isn't this. Okay. This is great.
Krakatoa, the eruption of Krakatoa in 1883 was one of the most devastating eruptions in recorded history. Krakatoa Island is a small volcanic island located in the Sunda Strait between the islands of Java and Sumatra in Indonesia.
Mm-hmm. So Southern Pacific. Is that where we are?
No, we're over where the Indian Ocean is. We're in the same region as Banda Aceh. Do you remember the tidal wave?
Yeah.
In 2004?
Yeah.
The tsunami.
So Thailand over that way?
We're over that way. And it's the I can't remember what it is, the North African plate pushing into the Eurasian plate or subducting beneath that. And I can't remember which is.
Indonesia being near Australia or something.
It is. But you're not in the Pacific. The Pacific is on the east coast of Australia.
Okay.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's Indian Ocean area kind of thing?
Oh,
okay.
Learning there. Okay.
Every day learn something new, man.
I'm good with geography. Oceans I'm a bit...
That is geography, man.
I know, but no, landmass I'm good.
That's 2/3 of geography.
I can name lots of countries, I can name lots of capital cities and all that stuff.
Okay.
But when it comes to, what ocean they're in, whereabouts on the globe they are...
Yeah, okay. I think you need to balance up your geography there.
Yeah. I get a bit more.
Okay.
Especially the islands, though. All these islands, I get really confused.
A previous eruption in the 5th or 6th century CE. Do you remember we were having a debate about CE and BCE?
Yeah, before the Christian era.
It's not. It's BCE is before Common Era, and CE is obviously Common Era, and BCE is the same as BC, before Christ.
Yeah.
And CE is the same as AD, Anno Domini. But it's the secular way of saying it.
Yeah, that's what I was...
So before Common Era and Common Era.
Okay.
So
you could have come up with something that didn't have a C in it, though. Gone completely different from it,
I think they went far enough for me. Yeah, no, that's okay. Anyway, a previous eruption in the 5th or 6th century Common Era CE is thought to have created Krakatoa and 2 nearby islands, Lang and Verlaten, as well as the undersea caldera between them.
Okay. Now, caldera, I know you've described this before to me, and what's it? Remind me what.
Okay, well, I will get into it further on, but caldera it's like the opening, it's like a volcano without the sides.
Right, so it's a hole in the ground that spewed lava.
But what it is it was a chain of volcanoes that collapsed after eruption into the caldera. So they're into the magma chamber, and
So think
all
of it
that's
like-
left
yeah.
is the big aperture.
Right, so think of it like
Yellowstone
yeah,
National
yeah.
Park is a caldera.
Right, so think of it
There's-
like a cauldron, maybe. Is what
Well,
think of it.
it's the
You're looking
Italian.
down into it.
It's the Italian for cauldron.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh,
Italian or Spanish. I can't remember which,
Oh, Jesus.
but it
Did
is.
not know
Yeah,
that.
there you
Honestly,
go.
wasn't feeding you that. Did not know that.
Yeah,
That's what
there you
I'm
go.
just thinking. Looking down into a big bucket of lava. Like.
Yeah, well, so that's what it is. So Yellowstone,
Or
and
magma, 'cause it's
there
underground.
are actually 2 calderas in California.
That's right. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's
And
meant that
there
for-
is one under. There's one on Iceland. There's 10 active ones around the world. I think I don't know how many there are, and I couldn't find a list.
Okay.
Some of them are active. Some
Again,
of them
if
are-
I can find photos and video, I'll stick them up on the Facey, and you can have a look at them.
videos of what?
Well, I don't know, an active caldera. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, photos anyway.
Okay. Well, again, I will get onto it later on, or it might even be in part 2. But you won't get videos or photographs of the volcanic activity on Yellowstone Park.
No, because it's been
That-
done.
Well, no, it's not dormant. It's considered active, but it last erupted 640,000 years ago, and
Slightly
before
they
that,
had cameras.
1.2 million years, and before that, 2.1 million years.
Definitely
So,
before they had cameras.
yeah. So
Is there an artist impression?
yeah, but you will get like Old Faithful.
Yeah.
You know, you'll get the venting. I didn't find any articles on it, but I remember reading and hearing about swelling of the landscape in Yellowstone National Park because it's chambered
It's literally
beneath its
floating.
magma chamber.
Yeah, it's floating on a
Yeah, but
lake
there
of
you go.
magma. Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
In 1883, Krakatoa was made up of 3 peaks. Perboatan to the north of the island, which is the most active, Dannan in the middle, and Rekata, located at the southern end of the island, and it's the largest,
Right.
but it wasn't the most active.
So you say it's made up of 3 peaks.
It was.
So it's well, it was a single volcano.
It's a single.
With 3
Well,
peaks,
the caldera is just 3 peaks fed by the same caldera.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it's a magma chamber basically. Yeah.
Which is the caldera?
Yeah. So like you're talking 90% of a volcano is under. It's away from view. You can't see it. Like, that's all going on in there all the time. Yeah.
Well, all the earth is moving. The mantle
Yeah.
is a fluid thing.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking like I don't know, Lord of the Rings, where they go inside the volcano, it's a big chamber of magma.
Yeah.
Is it like that? No.
I wouldn't say so. I'd say that's very Hollywood.
Yeah, no, I know it is, but I'm saying that's generally the idea that like you have the rock or whatever formation of your mountain, but inside that thing, it's hollow, and inside that is magma, and eventually.
There are geologists that go to volcanoes that are not erupting 12 kilometers or whatever into
Yeah,
the
but
air, but that
slowly
have this
spewing lava,
churning lava field.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah,
of. Yeah.
Okay, so you do get that, but I don't know if Krakatoa was like that because it wasn't around in 1883.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. But yeah, but no, what I'm getting at is it's a single magma field, just has 3 chimneys. If you want to put it that way, 3 peaks.
Well, it's got 3 peaks on the island of Krakatoa,
yeah.
but there are 2 other islands, Lang and Verlaten, that were created and are fed by the undersea caldera between
So
them.
it's a massive
Yeah.
caldera. then,
Well, caldera is a massive anyway.
Right.
Okay.
So not
Up
like a.
until 1883, Krakatoa was thought to be extinct, having last erupted 203 years earlier in 1680. But going back that far, like there wasn't the observation and the records taken of volcanoes as accurately as they're taken now.
Yeah.
So they would have said that hasn't erupted for a couple of 100 years. Things extinct. You know what I mean? Without having a
seismic.
A historical record of
Seismic history
of anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand. Is the earth cooling or something that we're not getting as much volcanic activity as we did, or is it just that we're talking over such a long period of time that like eruptions were just as rare back then? It was just that we're talking about such a long period of time that there's so many of them.
I'm not going to answer that question because I'll go through it later on, and
Okay.
you will answer your own question.
Okay.
Okay. Right. Okay. So it hadn't erupted for 203 years since 1680, and in 1883, Krakatoa said, "Hold my beer." Right? People started hearing explosions and feeling tremors underground. So it
That's
was
not scary at all.
come to life. Like, it must be the weirdest. Like, I've been in California when there was an earthquake, and it's the strangest feeling to feel the ground beneath you, the sturdiest thing you know,
Just
and you will
moving.
ever know.
Just suddenly
moving
around.
Just
the place.
moving.
Yeah.
Even if it's a tremor, just moving beneath you.
Yeah.
I wasn't in a particularly violent earthquake, and everybody around me, all the Californians, were all going, yeah, whatever, and going on about their day, and we were freaked. We were going, what the absolute fuck? It's mental.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest, strangest
So you
feeling in the
You
world.
can imagine what a bad one was like.
So if there's tremors and you're hearing explosions on an island, you're
Where
going,
you have nowhere to go, really.
fuck this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit.
So people started hearing tremors and explosions underground. The captain of a German warship, Elizabeth, its name was Elizabeth.
Yeah, I thought the captain
Yeah.
was for it.
It might be. Reported a cloud of ash above the volcano, and I assume that was Perbawatan, the most active peak. That was an estimated 9.5 kilometers high. That's from here in Cardiff, where we are, to O'Connell Street. Vertically.
Standing on his head.
Fuck's sake. I was like, what? Because I was trying to get my head around 9.5 kilometers, and I thought if I put it to a distance I'm familiar with, that would be a little bit better. Yeah, from here to O'Connell Street. That's nuts. That's insane. Because I did from here to, say, Lugan, not that far along, and I was like, that's fucking nowhere near far enough. And I just kept expanding it. I was like, fucking O'Connell Street, man. So vertically, Jesus Christ. So for 2 to 3 months, Krakatoa rumbled, and there were commercial vessels chartered trips to see the volcanic spectacle.
No.
So
was Krakatoa actually populated? Like, there
there would have
living
been.
there,
Yeah. I'm sure most of them would have left. I'm sure you have your die-hard ones that said, I'm fucking, I was born here, I'm going to die here. Yeah, you're fucking going to die there, right?
You're gonna die.
So they chartered trips. People on nearby islands held festivals celebrating natural fireworks that lit up the night sky. So by day you'd see this cloud churning out from
But at night it
Perbawatan.
would be really bright,
And by night it'd be a fiery red,
Dead.
which is insane.
On
On August the 26th, 1883, at 12:53 p.m, Krakatoa blew, and the initial blast sent a cloud of gas and debris 24 kilometers into the sky over Perbawatan. So we
24.
said it was 9.5 from here to O'Connell Street.
Yeah. That's from here to Bray.
It was nearly 3 times that distance.
Yeah,
so into O'Connell Street and back again, and into O'Connell Street again. And you're a little bit more than the column of ash and smoke that went into the atmosphere.
24 kilometers. That's like here to Shockland.
It's nuts, isn't it?
Yeah.
The explosion will be the first of a series of increasingly violent eruptions over the next day or so. On the morning of the 27th, a ginormous blast launched ash 80 kilometers into the atmosphere.
Fuck off now.
Fucking nuts.
Seriously, man.
From here to Wicklow.
80 kilometers?
The other side of Wicklow.
Yeah. Does the atmosphere go that high? No, it does. Way over 100. No.
Yeah. Well, the International Space Station orbits at like 400 kilometers.
Yeah.
And that's always
outside.
falling. Yeah, it's just the fact that it's moving so fast in orbit stops it from actually falling into the atmosphere.
Yeah, but that's
so
what
it's
orbit
high.
is. Orbit is just constantly falling towards the horizon.
Yeah.
But because the Earth is a globe, not flat, globe, it never reaches the horizon.
Yeah, okay. So the ginormous blast, 80 kilometers into the atmosphere, and could be heard as far away as Perth in Australia, which is 4,500 kilometers away.
Nuts. That's probably the worst volcanic eruption. Well, the most spectacular one in recorded history, or I was going to say living memory, but it's not quite living memory.
Mount St Helens is pretty fucking spectacular.
Yeah, no, but this
everyone we get to, if you say that was the best, that was massive. No, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse.
Well, we're going to go over 80 kilometres.
Probably. Anyway, 9 square miles of the island collapsed into the sea, including the peaks Pebawatan and Danang, to a depth of over 800 feet. 800 feet is important to remember.
Right.
More than 36,000 people were killed, but relatively few were killed by volcanic rock. And they would have fled, you know. So the collapse of the islands into the sea created a tsunami, a wall of water 120 feet high that wiped out approximately 165 coastal villages, and I don't know how far away.
That's nuts.
It destroyed over 70% of the island. The 1883 eruption of Krakatoa was a global impact eruption.
Okay.
It had the force of 200 megatons, equivalent to the bomb that exploded over Hiroshima by 10,000. So it was massive. It was 10,000 times the explosion that happened over Hiroshima. Krakatoa's eruption sent 6 cubic miles of rock, ash and dust into the atmosphere, causing intense sunsets globally. It's estimated temperatures dropped for years afterwards.
Wow.
So that would have affected crops and crop yield, and it would have brought hunger and possibly starvation to many, you know, all that kind of thing. So it was a global impact, and in 1883, they might have speculated that this crazy fucking weather is due to Krakatoa exploding, but they wouldn't have had any real idea. Yeah, they just kind of would have said, you know, this and this, 2 and 2 make 4, but they could easily have come up with 2 and 2 make 5 or 6, you know?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Understood, yeah.
In 1927, so last century,
fairly recently,
living memory, Krakatoa reawakened, and in early 1928, the rim of a new cone emerged from the sea. So remember I told you to remember 800 feet?
Yeah.
It collapsed 800 feet under the water,
and has now built itself back up.
In a space of 45 years, it had risen 800 feet to the point where it broke the surface of the sea.
And what size is it now? Or what height is it now? Do we know?
Anak Krakatoa, which translates into Child of Krakatoa, which I think is great. It's a great name. Stands at an elevation of over 2,500 feet above the water.
Sea level now. Wow.
This was before its last eruption in 2022.
Oh, right, okay. So it's gone again, is it?
There's a 2-mile exclusion zone around the island.
Okay.
In 2018, a huge eruption triggered a tsunami that killed 430 people along the coasts of Sumatra and Java. So it's still going.
Still very much active.
Yeah, oh God, yeah. It's the caldera is feeding it, you know.
Yeah.
But again,
I was going to say to you there that I would put photographs up because I really want to see that Child of Krakatoa. I'm assuming that there's a 2-mile exclusion zone. There probably aren't any photos.
I'd say there will be.
Maybe satellites. I don't know.
Well, you'll get satellites, but I'd say there will be. The people have great lenses now, man.
Yeah, you know. Stuff.
People have great lenses now.
Okay.
Yeah, there'll be photographs.
I'll see what I can find, yeah.
And if it's blowing off steam, you're gonna fucking see it.
Well, that's true. Yeah. No, I mean to actually see the actual crater ridge. I'd love to see that. I'm assuming it's like a lake now. It's full of water, but it has a massive crater. Like river.
Well,
it
might be, and it might be that crescent moon shaped island.
Oh, I know what you mean.
But
it wouldn't be fully circle. Yeah.
The peak that has risen out of the sea, which now stands at an elevation of about 2,000 feet, is going to be visible.
Yeah.
It's going to look like a stratovolcano.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, yeah. Kind of a Skellig Michael kind of vibe, yeah.
Definitely not Skellig Michael, man.
Triangle pointy, you know, pointy.
Skellig Michael is not like Skellig Michael. Okay. People go online and look at pictures of Skellig Michael, and it's incredibly impressive, but it looks nothing like a stratovolcano. Okay, I'm just
triangular in shape.
Yeah, okay. So is fucking Sugarloaf.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not a volcano. Okay, what's the most famous volcano that you can think of?
Probably the one. Well, I don't know, Mount Fuji in Japan, or
Fuji in Japan was last active. Well, it's still active. It's still considered active, but last erupted in 1707. I don't have much information on that. I couldn't find much about that. But 1707 was its last eruption. It's 100 kilometers southwest of Tokyo, and Tokyo has a population of 37 million.
Yeah.
Fuck
Yeah.
me.
I'd love to go. It's one place I would really love to go.
Yeah.
But not unless I had the language. Unless I had the language.
My cousin is
Have
just a business,
I have the basics. I can say please and thank you. And
that's very basic.
I can order some meals.
The most Japanese I have is the ones that I wrote down for a previous podcast on hand gestures and shit like that.
Yeah.
Other than that, I haven't got any.
Wax on, wax off doesn't count.
Not even going to claim it. So we've done Mount St Helens and we've done Krakatoa, and we've even spoken a little bit about the volcanoes erupting on Io, the moon of Jupiter. Next episode, I want to talk about Pompeii. I want to talk about Vesuvius. I'm going to go into the Iceland volcanoes, and I have a list of the most violent eruptions in the world, of which these volcanoes that I'm talking about aren't registering as a part of. Like, they're not on that list. They're not even the biggest. And then we'll talk a bit more about calderas. Calderas are even more incredible. Like,
looking forward to that, then.
And I missed studying this. I should have fucking studied this.
It's never too late.
Yeah, well, I may do it when I retire. I'll be that old man sitting in college studying fucking archaeology and geology and all that kind of shit.
Never too late. See you next time.
See you next time.